they're still so fearful of the idea of populism rising in America that they're willing to do anything to take him down because of the idea he represents. And I think that's what they really fear, and we'll see how it plays out here. But I really think, just like Tim, they're going to indict him. I think that there's no question they're going to do that. And if it's not this, they're going to do it in Georgia with the Georgia case. But there's a couple different prosecutors, all far left, who have this as basically the crux of their campaign was going after Trump. One of them, if not multiple, and I tend to think it's going to be multiple, are going to drop indictments on him. And I've been saying that for a long time. I know Jack Posobiec has. I think you did too before on a show like 6 months or a year, maybe even a year ago. You said you thought they would indict him.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is something, it was not a secret. We all kind of saw this coming, that if you elect crazy people like this who campaign on this, one or two of them is going to go and actually do it. And that's where we're at.
And they'll make up whatever reason. There doesn't need to be a reason.
They don't need a reason. In fact, it's better that it's this, when we're talking about the fire starting method that they're kind of going after and causing division, than it is that it was a blatant murder on camera. Because that wouldn't cause the type of division they seek to cause. And that's Marxism at its core. Dividing people has to happen because you've never seen Marxism or leftism thrive in a happy country. It only comes to be in chaos. So you have to create chaos. It's why these Antifa people look like they're out of a Batman movie, and you pulled them out of a mental institution, and the
Arkham.
Joker's brought them out, and it's like, hey, you guys are going to work. Let's go do this. Because if you look, like, every time I see the Andy No post where he's got like 40 Antifa people in a lineup, they look like they're out of Arkham Asylum every single time.
100%.
Dude,
every
SSRIs all up in that.
Oh, yeah.
And
Adderall, God knows what psychotropics they're on legally.
And the funny thing is, we're living in a comic book story, man. Trump is this billionaire who runs for president to try and fix the problem and fight back against a globalist elite, and all that stuff. And then you got the villains are literally getting elected with an evil billionaire's money and then releasing the criminals. Imagine if you opened a Batman comic. No. Let's just say a Justice League comic. And Batman is meeting with Superman. Superman walks in and he's like, the alarms are all going off in the Watchtower. Superman's like, Batman, Bruce, what's happening? And he goes, all over the United States, criminals are being released from their prisons. How? It's Luthor. He used his vast wealth to get a bunch of district attorneys into power, who then started releasing criminals on the streets, wreaking chaos. And then the conflict of the story is like, how do you get these criminals back in jail when it was done through a legal process? This is why I always liked Lex Luthor as a villain, because he had the arc where he is a legitimate businessman. I love the arc where he runs for president, does it legitimately, and Superman can't touch him. That's what we're seeing with these Soros DAs, with the woke left politicians going after Trump in this way. Releasing the criminals is as comic book villain as it gets. And we all know it's happening. I mean, come on.
I want to know, who are we in the comic book? That's an interesting question. But beyond that, when you look at this, one of the real problems is the weakness of the institutions on the right and the we'll call it the Republican Party in general, but it's really sort of the old guard Republicans, because they can't say they weren't warned. They had people warning them this was going to happen, and they didn't even try to fight it. They didn't even try to stop it. They didn't try to put up some independent and fund them really well in these races. They didn't try anything to try to stop these Soros DAs. They just sort of thought, hey, they sound crazy. They're saying crazy stuff. That helps us because we can cut ads of them saying crazy stuff. And the truth is, no, we're not living in that world anymore, guys. You let communists into power and you let them destroy a country. We're not talking about the ads for your next cycle because they said some crazy thing.